Welcome to the Val Valley Update number 12. Today we're going to take a look at Sutton. Sutton is my coal fields, which is at the end of the branch line. And we got a number of things to talk about that have changed over the recent months. Everything from an engine house to backgrounds. And we're going to look at some of the details that have already been here. But today we're taking a real close look at Sutton. So we'll start down in the end here and we'll look at the backdrops. As you saw before, in Sycamoose we added some backdrops, and we used the same backdrop throughout Sutton. It's a really nice woods backdrop. It gives the feeling that we're deep in the heart in the woods where Pennsylvania coal mines would have been. Just kind of take a quick look down through here. They're like 32 or 33 inches long each. They're about $7 a piece. You can find them on eBay. I'll try and post a link to the guy who sells them. They sell out kind of quick, as you can imagine. But they stretch the entire length of my third level. Well, down to where it meets the second level, second level, and the first level is beyond that, but that's a city. So we're going to take a look at Sutton. One of the new things that has happened, the yard lead here has been restructured. We used to have that sharp turn would come into a Y, and then two number 6 switches. We had a lot of, so we went and got 3 curved radius switches to make it much more fluent. And the derailments have come down to about a nil. I'm very happy. That was a major project. Let's take a look at what the track looked like before the track realignment. Alright, we're going to move on down the line here a little bit and look at some of the details. As you can see, Sutton has been ballasted the entire length of the section here, all the way down to there. Dwarfs added here for each of the tracks, telling us which switches at the yard lead are lined in what direction. And we have dwarfs. If we go back here to the beginning of the yard lead, you can see each switch has its dwarf, which tells us the direction. When I wired these switches here in Sutton yard lead are wired, again we have a double pull, double throw switch, and the handle only has 2 positions. It's on or on, one set of contacts or the other. And this momentary button feeds power. As soon as you press it, it's the only time power goes into the set of contacts that control the twin coil. Okay, here's the toggle switch I used. Sorry, I can't hold the camera very still all of a sudden and hold everything else. It's a double throw, double pull, meaning the position has only 2 on or on. There's no center off. And it has 2 rows of contacts. One set I use to control the twin coil switch machine. Whoops! And the other set I use to control the dwarf signals. So I line it for normal, which is straight, and then I push this to set it, and you heard it go over. And let's take a look at the dwarf signals so you can see how they're controlled. Right now we have a red indicating that the first switch in the yard lead is against track number 1, which has it in normal. We put it into diverging, which is the curved route, and then we hit the trip, and we'll go back and look. And now you'll see that signal is green. Could have been this is a low technology way of doing a fancy job. Yeah, I want that way for the next run. So 2 twin coils, a double pull, double throw, and a push button, and some dwarfs. Alrighty, next we're going to take a look at the ballasting here in Sutton Yard. You'll notice a couple of things right away. I use a brownish red ballast. My choice in color was not so much that I've seen a prototype that used this ballast. I wanted my branch line and its yards to stand out from my main line and their yards. The story behind this is the Val Valley Railroad is a railroad that has just recently been purchased or acquired by Norfolk Southern. And so a lot of the old Norfolk Southern equipment is winding up here, kind of sent to the outpost to be used. You know, you're the new child on the block, or the youngest in the family. You kind of get hand-me-downs is what I'm looking for. So if we have red ballast here, or brownish ballast, I don't know why I keep calling it red, but our main lines down on the first level are nice gray ballast. They're well maintained. Our sidings have cinders on them in our yard, and this siding, which has cinders and kind of runs into oblivion. So I wanted a difference between the branch line and my main line. I'm going to go over and take a look at Wallace Junction. Okay, this is Wallace Junction. This is where my main line meets the branch line. And here you can see clearly a division where the two railroads separate. You know, this was originally the branch line, and this is our main line. And the branch line again has the ballast, but this gives you that effect. When you look at it, you can tell, yes, definitely, two different railroads, two different ballasts, and it helps them keep that identity while being modeled together. While we're here at Wallace Junction, I thought we'd cover the swamp real quick. The swamp area has been a grassy field for, well, since it was first sceneried, and we finally got the water put in it, so now it looks more like a swamp. And that's our cat Jimmy saying hello. Meanwhile, back at Sutton, the third level, we're looking at ballast, and you'll notice that two tracks here and a switch have been done in bright white ballast. The idea was to set it apart that this is new work that's been done. Again, the Val Valley having been recently acquired by the Norfolk Southern, and apparently they decided that they needed to install an engine facility here. So you know, things are changing, the new ownership and so forth. So I wanted to show that these tracks were new, at least newer than these, and these certainly didn't get much maintenance over the years. That's why you can't see most of the ties the way the ballast is, and so forth. So that leads us to why we have white ballast right up to the switch that was cut into the what would have been the main line on the branch line there, leading right up into the newer, not new, but newer engine facility. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the Sutton engine shed. When I built this, in my mind it wasn't supposed to be a major shop, recently added. They needed to be able to fix cars here at the mine and locomotives real quick. All heavy repairs would be sent down to the large shop here in Pearson Yard. And there's a picture of our large diesel shop. Okay, returning back to Sutton. So we used a Pike Stuff engine facility. It's a two-track, or two-bay obviously. We made a cutaway here so that you can see inside. I added some LED strips, and as you can see, I put strips the length, two of them, and I had way too much light. It was like a sun in here. So I simply caked black LED or black paint over some of the LEDs until I got the right combination. And we'll take a quick look at some still pictures of the engine facility. Okay, now we're back from taking a look at those pictures. You can kind of see that it's kind of sad to park a piece of maintenance way equipment in here or a locomotive, because you don't get to see all the details, especially along the back wall. So moving along to our next details that were added along the yard as I was ballasting. We have some railroad ties here. For my scrapped or used railroad ties, I save all the ties when I'm installing track or ripping it up or trimming, and then I cut the nubs off the sides, and I leave the little clips on that would have held the rails that represent spikes. And first I paint the ties flat black, and then I hit them with a very light wash of gray, which makes them look old and weathered. You got to make sure you get it on all sides, because if you don't get it on the sides look shiny and the top looks kind of flat. And then I weather where the spike and tie plate would be. And you'll find those strewn about throughout the whole yard. There's A couple piled here, there's some there, and a few more by the bushes here. And then I use some of the scrap rail and I make various rail deposits. One thing I like to do is I take an old truck that has given me troubles, I got piles of them, and cut them apart. The wheels, I cut half of the bottom from the axle down on both sides. You got to keep that even when you do that or they won't sit right. So they look like they're buried half in the dirt and been sitting here a while. Think about it. Something weighs a couple tons isn't going to sit right on the dirt without sinking in a little bit. So even those pieces I saved that I cut off, they just look like little rusty bits and a couple knuckles. Some old couplers I got sitting here. And then there's the chunks for wheels. But they look great like old rusty equipment. So we're going to move on down the line a little bit here to the Black Cat Coal Company, number 2. This is tipple number 2. I really enjoyed putting this kit together. This one I built completely myself. It's kind of kit bashed / scratch built. This originally was a glacier gravel, I have a little trouble saying that, kit by Walthers. It's been highly modified, and from a gravel tipple to a coal tipple. After all, you know, it's similar material. Now the original one, this was supposed to sit flat on ground. As you can see, I've got it raised so it'll sit above the tracks. And I had to build this new supporting structure and lengthen the legs underneath the hopper here. I did the same for this, except for I made 3D printed the bottom half of the skeleton, or the framework here for that hopper is 3D printed. Alright, moving on. This is the first coal tipple we did. This is Black Cat Coal Tipple number 1. This is also a glacier gravel kit. I bought this off of eBay. It was already pre-assembled and it was in kind of deplorable shape. It had a lot of glue stains on it. It looked pretty bad, but I think I got it for like $10 or $15, so it really wasn't a bad deal, and I thought, well, maybe I can fix it up. So I weathered it a bit, and this one I modified as well. I raised it up just like the other. In fact, this one I did first. That's why it was tipple number 1. And we'll take a look over the side. The difference between the two kits that makes them look really different is that they're 180 degrees. This one is turned 180 degrees from that one, and I cut this part off of this kit and wasn't used. And that way I have the two kits. Makes it look like they're two complete different models. Let's see if I can back up so you can see them both at the same time. And yet they're really the same kit. And that's kind of cool to do when you really enjoy building kits. The stairways and catwalks are from Teachy Train Group. I think I'm saying that right. And this hopper is left over from the river mine, Walthers River Mine Coal. We'll visit that kit here in a minute. That would be our turd nugget. So right in the neighborhood we have our scale house, which is yet to be quite completed. we have a full interior, so I left the back off, even though I'm going to have some ground space here. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There it goes. Got a couple people inside, some huge wires running up to their lighting, and we got a gentleman outside. Eventually, I'm going to have, and this is why it's not completed yet, I'm going to use an Arduino to detect when a car is sitting directly over the scales, and it'll either give a digital readout here on a little display. It'll be right down here, and there'll be either a dwarf signal either side or a full size. I've been thinking about using a full size signal because I have two left over with 3 colors in them that would show the engineer that if he's going fast enough for the scales to weigh each car as they're going. Or typically you have either a red, green, or yellow light for that. So that's in the works, but hasn't really happened yet. Since we're right here looking at this unfinished country, there's going to be a little bit of embankment between the locomotives here and the ground, and there'll be a creek running through it. And these are going to be old abandoned equipment sitting in kind of a pit of sorts where they've just been left to rot with some weeds and maybe puddles. So that ought to be pretty interesting. Alright, we're going to move on down the line here while exploring Sutton. There are a set of magnets that are hidden. I always mark my ties yellow, but that doesn't always make them easy to see. So I'm thinking either putting an old signal in here to mark. There's 3 magnets. There's one on each of the 3 tracks. I didn't put one out here on the main. So I'm either going to mark them with a lot of people use skewers that they paint either yellow or orange and put it up like a pole. I might put a telephone pole in there. I want something that I can see but doesn't give it away what it's doing. And we'll move on. This is the only unscenic spot of track that's left, and that's because I'm going to be placing an electromagnet, which I happen to have an old KD electromagnet here, and it's cut down so it'll fit up here in our little space where it needs to be. I just haven't gotten around to putting it in yet, like a lot of my projects. Okay, now we're going to visit the Turd Nugget Mine. The Turd Nugget Mine, if we can get a better focus, my arm doesn't give out. There we go. The Turd Nugget Mine is a Walters kit. This is the back side. Usually you don't see this side. And it's got some interesting things going on here at the mine. Well, first we'll take a look here at the welders. And we'll see if we can get a good focus on them. Alright, the welders are Arduino powered. I've got one guy working over here on the payloaders and one guy over there working on the other equipment. And it randomly picks a flash back and forth, and at times it'll go flash. So we got a nice little welding scene. I want to add a maintenance truck to this scene. The maintenance building here was the part that I cut off of the Glacier Gravel kit. It's actually this part right here that I cut off of that kit and reused it over here for the mine. And we'll take a quick look at the mine itself. So here we are looking at my Turd Nugget Mine, which again I said was a Walters kit. We added a lot of detail to it. We got scaffolding and stairs from Teachy Train Group again. Some of the windows are cut and they're held open or glued open. It's really hard to get the camera to focus back in there. To help make the mine interesting, we have some sporadic junk here by the edge laying around. It's just old stuff. These are old hit and miss motors that probably were used in the mine to run the conveyors and stuff, or the generators back in the day. Because Lord knows the mine's been here forever. Alright, some of you will remember that the Turd Nugget mine, which is on the end of our third level, ties into our second level here at Sycamoose. So we'll just kind of take a look at the bridge abutment, where the bridge would have been here had the world not been cut away, so the humans could exist. This is where the second level exits the tunnel into Sycamoose on its way down the line. And we have this is the grain elevator that we covered in our last update for Sycamoose, and this is where our lift down bridge would normally be, which scoots across. So if we put our lift down bridge, you can kind of get an idea. It's a small room. It's really hard to do things one-handed. But the second level comes out here in Sycamoose, runs across the lift bridge in front of the main door to the train room, through the town of Wilson, along the back where the trees are, and into Sutton. And there's Sutton. So this has been our update for Sutton. Hopefully you'll join us for our next update, which will most likely have some work being done here in Sutton, the junkyard, and hopefully we'll be starting the Val Valley River Falls soon, or maybe we'll be working on the power plant and station next. Hope to see you then. Thanks for watching.